They are very very
Wow.
talkative too. If you get them in the right mood, they
That sounds
babble.
like a great validation for ghost investigations is to be able to say, well, I didn't know this person, but I'm able to verify that they are who they say they are.
Yeah, and the fort has actually made a point to, when we do our ghost tours, when we tell our stories, we only tell stories that, number one, have either been multiple confirmed, which means that multiple people have reported the same interaction with the same spirit, or we have some kind of tangible proof behind it. We have a photo, we have a audio clip, we have something. Because too many sites have been caught where somebody comes in and says, "Oh, you know, I saw Casper the Friendly Ghost dancing a jig on William, I say Thomas Jefferson's face," like something totally outlandish, and then the site runs with that story, and then they get caught, like, "Oh, that didn't really happen." So we've made a point to kind of, we keep track of all the stories that people tell us, but the ones that we translate to everybody else are only the ones that, like I said, have been multiple confirmed, that we know are true within the walls of our fort. And if we're able to provide historical background that supports those stories, that makes it even better.
Is there one era that seems to be more pronounced than the others? Because if it's going from 1777 to modern day times, surely there must be like a layer upon layer of different types of people there.
You would think, but surprisingly, we get a lot of Civil War soldiers and a lot of Revolutionary War soldiers. We don't get a lot of interaction with anybody from anything later than the Civil War. And it could be because at that point the fort became a depot rather than an active garrison. So the amount of bodies going through the space was considerably less, which means that probably less people passed away or were there. So that might be one reason why there were no significant battles at that point. Nobody was executed or anything like that. So there's no emotional ties to the space after the Civil War. So um, I mean, I would expect, like you said, that you would get those layers upon layers. We get, like I said, we get a lot of Civil War. Actually, no, that's not even true. I'm sorry, I'm actually lying to you. We get a lot of Revolutionary War, and I think that that's obviously tied to the siege. And then we have a few Civil War. So Civil War would be like number two, but the majority of the spirits that I believe we interact with are Revolutionary War.
That pretty much makes sense. That's back when it was a lot of turmoil in the area and I guess
Mm-hmm.
fighting in the fort.
Yes, for sure.
So, well, now, if you go out into some of the underground places, like some of the casemates, what do you find in some of those areas?
So casemate 11, like I said, that's our solitary confinement. Um, William Howe is there, and Bernard Devlin hangs out there as well. William Howe will actually help women up and over thresholds and things like that. He's very much a gentleman, but he does get very snappy with you. If you accuse him of treason, things like that, he will curse you out. He has been known to curse out people and things. Not that I've ever pushed his buttons, ever. Nope. Bernard Devlin is a little more crass and crude. He does like to grab the rear end of females, especially in the summer months when everybody's wearing shorts. He likes to get his. Um, so those guys hang out there. In the Torpedo magazine, actually, is a very cool experience that I had there. So if you walk into the Torpedo magazine, it's a completely dark room with a hole in the floor that goes down out into the river that we talked about earlier. And we were in there, myself and Scott and a few other people, and we were doing some EVP work. And one of the things that we actually got was um, we were asking questions and talking about, like, how many people are in this room? Can you count the people in this room? Things like that, where we're trying to get an idea if there was more than one spirit there, stuff like that. And the one guy finally said, "You're interrupting our work. Get out or help."
Get out or help.
And when I heard that, now this is an EVP. EVPs are usually a couple of syllables. This was a full thing. It was
Full
interrupting our
sentence.
work, get out or help. I was like, wow.
Now, did you only catch that on the recorder or did you hear it?
We did. We actually only heard it in the recorder. Actually, it was Scott's recorder. Um, and I wish I had a copy of it to send to you to play. Unfortunately, he has that, and I wasn't able to get a hold of him. He's on vacation this week. But yeah, it was on his recorder. It wasn't on any of the other recorders that were in the room. It was just that one, and it was clear as, me yelling at you from across the room. It was incredible. Now, we've gotten other people while we're in that room, we've actually had a lot of disembodied voices in that space. This was clearly an EVP, but it was one of the coolest ones.
Now, that's kind of
Wow.
interesting because it's almost as if they're living their time frame, but somehow you're intruding into it.
It is. I mean, I like to think that the people at the fort, the spirits that we have at the fort, are still active duty. They still think that their job is to defend the fort, and I hope that that's really what they're thinking, because they, do the job that they're supposed to do. The sentries do their walks. The people working in the big shop, the gophers, they run around. So I don't know so much if it's that they still think their timeline is going on, or more so that their job is not finished. Their job was to protect and defend the fort, and they're still doing that.
And they still have to see it as in their time frame, though, because if they're actually working on the torpedoes and stuff like that, you don't have any of those there, so they're actually seeing them in their time period.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
So just how furnished are these these casements? Do you have items in there from the time period?
No, not so much. So in the soldiers' quarters, the soldiers, the room that you can't hear the scream in, there is a whole museum section, and that's the only space that has period artifacts in it. We did have other museum pieces set up in the building that caught fire, but unfortunately, when the building caught fire, they all got drenched, so they're in the process of restoration. So hopefully, that building will again have some artifacts in it eventually. But for now, the only building that actually has period artifacts in it is the officers' barracks. Now, the casemates have some benches and things, but they were all made modern. So there's nothing really. There is a few cast iron stoves or potbelly stoves, which date to later than the fort's build. So, probably we haven't officially dated them, but probably 1900s.
What about the cannon?
We have two cannons. We have the big one, and that's actually what they call it, the big one. There's the big one, and then there's Tom. Tom is a 7-inch repeater, and then we have the 4-foot big cannon. Tom we use for events, and the big one we use to scare the crap out of the pilots landing at the airport.
So they are functional cannons. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. We have two functioning cannons. We have a full battery of functioning muskets of varying time periods as well. We do not live fire. We do blank fire demonstrations, but active military demonstrations, so people can kind of get an idea of what it was like when those cannonballs were coming in. We don't have any cannons still on the walls. They've all been decommissioned and taken down, but we did at one point have 20-foot barrel cannons up on the walls.
Wow. You can see you sinking a couple of yachts in the Delaware River.
Yeah.
Just a few, yeah.
I think you only shoot powder out of them, though. You don't put any shells in them.
Not anymore, no. They won't let us.
Yeah.
We tried to shoot the geese one time, and apparently they frown on that.
I think what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take our last break, and when we come back, we will play some EVPs. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the things in the fort, and then we're going to talk about a couple other things. Yes. Something that you're supposed to be revealing.
Yes.
Okay. So, Jeff, you still with us?
Yes. I also wanted to add, by the way, that a lot of people forget because they're used to seeing movies where you just see like a cannon in the distance. They go boom, and then you see the carnage that takes place. But the cannonballs only traveled about 60 miles an hour. You could actually see them coming at you.
Really?
That must have been pretty terrifying.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say it is.
Which way do I duck? So you're listening to the Paranormal View on para-x.com with hosts Henry Foister, Ceiling Cat, Barbara Duncan, and myself, Jeffrey Gould, with tonight's awesome guest, paranormal investigator Rebecca Brumble. So stay tuned for more about Fort Mifflin and the Paranormal View after the break.
And welcome back, everybody, right here to the Paranormal View on the Para-X Radio Network. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight and listening. And we have people in chat room. We got listeners from around the world. And speaking of that, Barbara, where do we have listeners from?
Henry, tonight they're listening in from the United States, United Kingdom, and hello, Canada, celebrating your 150th anniversary. Australia, and we have a couple of unknowns listening in.
Yeah, they just wanted to find out about the fort. I know what it is.
Reconnaissance.
Yeah. And I want to welcome back Rebecca.
Thank you.
All right. I know that in some of the casemates, people has some paranormal activity and get some EVPs, don't they?
Absolutely. So, I mean, in my opinion, I'll be honest with you, the casemates are not my favorite place to investigate. In so much that they've kind of been overhyped so much that people get really frustrated because things don't happen like they do on TV. Now, we do have a Civil War soldier that hangs out in casemate number 1. We have Michael the Gopher that hangs out kind of in the hallway. We have the judge that hangs out in casemate number 4, and the faceless man that hangs out in casemate number 5. The problem is that TV made them seem much cooler than they are. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're all cool spirits. They just, in my opinion, and again, this is my opinion, this is not the fort's opinion, is that, there are spirits all over the fort. But yeah, no, I mean, in the casemates too, I think that they're overhyped a little bit.
Well, that's also the job of those, silly shows that, I'm like, just show what happens. Don't, don't, they're going to a commercial the minute they hear, pa-dink, what was that? I'm like, come on, people.
Yeah, they have to have ratings, and that's what gets the ratings. Yes.
Yeah, I just wish it didn't color people's opinion quite as much as it does, because sometimes people come in there and they get all frustrated
because it
doesn't happen that way. But let me tell you this story really quickly, and this actually ties into that frustration. So I was leading a paranormal tour group, and these were actually people we were doing like little mini 15-minute investigations at all these different locations during the night. And it was the end of the night, and I had a group of people that they were there for the scare. They were not there for the actual experience. They wanted something to pop out and go boo. And this was one of the first times I had been asked by the fort to lead a group like this, so I was a little bit cocky. I have to admit, I was definitely a little bit on the cocky side. So we get to casemate number 4, which is one of the smaller ones. It was used mostly for storage. During the Civil War, they did house a few war protesters there, some dissenters from the civilian population. So we're sitting there, and nothing was really happening. Like I said, it wasn't an overly exciting evening. So I stood up and I said, "Judge, I know you're in here. I know you like to mess with people, and I was kind of giving them the stern speech about how these people were here for an event and nothing was happening, and they were very disappointed. Now, I know now that was not the way to approach that situation. Back then, I was just wanted these people to have a good time because I wanted the fort to ask me back again. So not necessarily the way to handle that situation, but that's how I did. So we're sitting there on these benches, and a few girls in the front of the room had said they were starting to feel a little uncomfortable. They were going to go wait outside. Okay, so they get up, they leave. So now there's about 4 people in the room with me. All of a sudden, it sounds like someone took a wooden door and at full speed slams it shut. Now, casemates are brick, they're archways, and they're all enclosed, so everything echoes. So not only did somebody slam this wooden door shut, but they slammed this wooden door shut with reverb to the highest power. So it was very loud. Now, just for clarification, there are no wooden doors in the casemates. So it's not like somebody actually slammed a wooden door. Could they have dropped something? Possibly, but I mean, this sounded like it was in the room with us. Next thing I know, my head goes flying backwards, and I bounced my head off the wall. And it felt like someone decked me in the face. Now, after 16 years of martial arts, I've been hit in the face a couple of times. I know what that feels like. And this felt like someone decked me in the face. So at the time, I kind of handed my group over to one of my associates who was there with me, and I walked outside, and I was like, all right, I just need some air. So I left. And that night, nothing was really, like, you look at my face, it was red, but it wasn't bad. The next day, I had a black eye to rival anyone's street fight you've ever seen. It was the darkest thing I've ever experienced in my life. So it took me 2.5 years before I finally went back into that room. And then the judge and I apologized to the air, and hopefully he accepted my apology because he hasn't punched me again. So that's always good.
And you don't think it was one of the people that was investigating got scared or something and thought they seen something and swung at it?
No, because everyone was sitting. As far as I did not see an actual fist come at me. Oh. If they did, they would have had to been super fast because I did not see any fists come at me.
Well, if it was in the dark, I don't see anything in the dark anyway, so it would probably just hit me. What casemate was that in?
That was casemate number 4.
Number 4.
Now, okay. Were there ever any wooden doors in those casemates at all?
Not. Trying to think. No, I think they were all. What's it called? They were all metal doors. There is a wooden door now on casemate number 1, but it's not original. So they would have all been kind of like this heavy. They would have been super thick oak with stud, or they would have been metal cell doors.
Interesting that
so
they
what,
could have slammed a door in their world and you could all hear it. Yeah.
Well, I wonder, I actually have considered this a time, and I've gone back and I've looked to see what's there. Now those casemates are constantly changing in so much that, you know, sometimes you go in there and there's benches, sometimes you go in there and there's some chairs, and they use them for storage a lot. So the stuff that's actually in the room is constantly changing. But at the time, there was wooden benches in the room, and it almost seemed like somebody picked up and knocked over one of those benches. I mean, if I was going to say this is what it sounds like, that's kind of what it sounded like. Now, none of the benches had fallen over at the time. You know, everyone's butt was firmly planted on a bench. But that's almost what it sounded like to me.
So what did they keep in those casemates?
So Revolutionary War, it would have been just storage supplies, generally food stuff, because those casemates tend to stay rather cold. So they would have kept some perishable foodstuffs, probably some quartermaster supplies, things like that. Civil War, at one point, it was, like I said, it was civilian dissenters. And then, again, a few overflow of Confederate prisoners. Not so many Confederates. It was mostly civil dissenters in those smaller casemates. The Confederates mostly were stuck in casemate number 1. And then after that, it became storage again. A lot of storage for the last 100 years. They do also flood fairly easily because of the moat level and where the river is. So they did not keep people in there as a barracks.
Okay. So do you still get some flooding into the fort now?
Yeah. They don't call it Mud Island for nothing.
Oh.
Yeah, no, we are actually below sea level for 90% of the fort.
Wow.
And we are right on the edge of the river. So anytime there's not high tide so much, but anytime there's a massive rain or a big snowfall, you can almost guarantee that at least part of the casemates will be underwater. We get puddles everywhere. We actually had the Philadelphia Renaissance Fair at the fort over Mother's Day weekend. And the first day was unfortunately rained out. The second day, you had to jump over these giant pools of water to get from tent to tent. It was kind of fun. It added to the experience.
Oh, it was fun, huh?
I was having a great time. My daughter was having an awesome time. She was playing in the puddles.
Well,
but yeah,
we got a couple EVPs we want to get in here, and let me take a quick look at see which ones they are. Here we go. Let's see. You got one that you have labeled "Don't Talk." Now, where did you catch this one at?
So this was captured in casemate number 11, the first time that I took a public tour down into the casemate. So you will hear a male voice. That is my investigator, Scott. And then sometimes, depending on how good your headphones are, you can hear me talking too. And we think that this one came up because I have a tendency when I lead those tours to talk too much. It's shocking, isn't it? Yeah, I have a tendency to, once I get there, to not let other people do EVP. I kind of grab it and go. So we think that they were telling me to shut up.
So let's see if we can hear that and see what it says.
Don't talk.
It was real quick. Don't talk.
Yeah.
I heard it. And what? That was the spirit that was saying that. What?
Yeah. So the first thing you hear Scott say to something like, "Are you here?" or something like that. And that was kind of then the voice afterwards. So this recorder, if anyone's ever seen Casemate 11 on TV, there's actually 2 ventilation windows where the guards would use to actually look into the cell, so they didn't have to open the cell door. And the recorder was actually set on the ventilation window in the cell, and we had put it down and kind of stepped away from it, which is why Scott sounds like he's further away than the voice.
Now,
All right,
yeah,
I'll play
what
it.
kind of recorder are you using on this?
This probably would have been the Sony cheap one from Walmart.
Okay.
Oh, I know that one well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple Sonys. I have an Olympic. They're all pretty good.
So I don't use anything fancy, I'll be honest with you. I had an H2 for a while, and it got so irritating listening to all the noises ever that I stopped using it. I use the $35 one from Walmart, and it works fantastic. And I've used it for 15 years now.
Okay, I'll play this one more time for you. So listen again to it and see if you can. He'll be saying, "Don't talk."
Don't talk.
And did you ever try and find out what his name is?
Yeah, so that actually is William Howe. And we have been able to tie that into other EVPs. The voice is actually the same. So the fort has a collection, a database of EVPs that people have collected in certain areas, and we've been able to tie that voice to many of the other ones in that space, and many of the ones that are associated with William Howe.
And it's interesting because you can tell the difference in the 2 voices there. His does have that metallic kind of reverberation to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this other one over here, son.
Yes.
Where was that one at?
So this is in the officers' apartment building, the officers' quarters, in the bottom, what used to be the museum room that's unfortunately now empty. But we had walked in, and there was nobody in the room. The room was completely empty. And shut the door, turned around, and you got this response. Now, just for reference, this was taken on a Wednesday morning, and the only people in the fort, other than Scott and myself, was the people working in the office out in the parking lot.
Okay, so let's hear him holler for you. Over here, son.
Yeah. Now, we don't know what that voice is, so we haven't been able to track that voice to a specific person. And to be honest, that space does not get a lot of activity. So who that is, we don't know.
Wow.
But Scott, like I said, if you ever meet Scott, which I'm hoping he'll come to the event, but we haven't mentioned yet, but he is like an EVP magnet at Mifflin. If it was possible to be a ghost attractor, he would be it. You want to be friends with this guy if you want EVPs at Fort Mifflin.
All right. I'm going to play it again for you, so listen close. He almost had like a little accent too, didn't he?
Yeah, it definitely, and it's a different voice from the other one. You know, like there's definitely a distinctive voice to it. It sounds like he has a little bit of a twang to him.
Well, when I was there, we were in casemate 5, and we were all the way to the end sitting next to the wall. There was me and Beth Brown, who was my co-host at the time, and Dave Jones and one of the other guys, I think, who was a tour guide of the fort. And we were sitting there and hadn't been there for 5 minutes, and Beth said her batteries went dead on a recorder, so I put mine down between us. And, of course, I didn't hear anything, but see if you can hear what it picked up. And it's kind of low, and you'll hear some of us talking to start with. I did amp it up a little bit for where the spirit's talking, so maybe you'll be able to hear it. So let's see here. Listen to it and see. So that was them other two guys talking there at the end. But it said, Henry, help me. And when I heard that, you know, how does something know what my name is? There at the, you know, I've never been there before. And then it says, help me.
He just looks like a Henry.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I mean, it is possible they heard somebody call you by name earlier.
It's possible. Yeah. But it's funny, there's different places that I've been where I've had spirits say my name like that. So maybe I'm popular in the spirit world. I don't know.
And you're saying that they do follow people around the fort. They don't stay in just one area.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Some of them do. Some of them stay where they are, but for the most part, they tend to wander.
Probably love your accent.
Well, it's an interesting place to be. Of course, like I say, when I was there was all kinds of people, so you wasn't going to get a whole lot, I don't think, even because when the ghost hunters were there, there was even that many more people that was there. But speaking of events, why don't you tell us what's going to be going on?
Oh, yay. So we actually came up with a name, which is going to be fun.
Okay.
And I forgot what it was.
Okay.
It's that catchy.
It is. No, it was. It went through several iterations, so I want to make sure I'm using the one that we finally decided on. All right, so September 16th at Fort Mifflin, we are going to be holding the coolest event ever, which is going to be not all the Para X hosts, a lot of the Para X hosts, including Henry, myself, some of the guys from Strange Things Radio, and T. Fox Dunham from What Are You Afraid Of podcast. Also Eric B. from Dark Sun Rising. And we're going to have Horror at the Fort, the Philadelphia Ghost Fest. That's what we ended up deciding on the name.
Philadelphia Ghost Fest.
Yeah, so it's going to be awesome. So during the day, come out and meet all the hosts. We'll be hanging out during the day. The fort will be open. You can do some daytime investigating. We'll have some historic tours, all that kind of stuff. And then at the dinner hour, we're actually going to have a couple of local horror writers come out and do some short story readings, so get you in the mood for the ghost thing. And then from 8 to 2, we are actually going to open up the fort for nighttime investigations. And I believe, Henry, you are also doing a live broadcast,
Right?
From the fort, too. So there'll be a lot going on, and all for the low, low price of $45 a person, which is a lot for an all-day event. Or, I'm sorry, it is not a lot for an all-day event. And it's a come-and-go thing, so you can kind of come for a little bit, go out and experience Philadelphia, come back later. You can pick and shoot. Oh, it's going to be awesome.
And how much interest have you gotten so far with all this?
Well, we just presented it now, so hopefully it'll all come pouring in.
So do people need to reserve ahead of time, or can they just show up?
You can show up. We are going to limit the nighttime investigation to only 40 people, because as we mentioned before, having too many people just kind of contaminates everything. So we are going to limit it. So I suggest, if you would like to be part of the nighttime portion of the event, you call Fort Mifflin, and call their office and get your ticket as soon as possible. If you would like to just come and hang out with us during the day, a lot of the horror writers are going to set up tables and sell some of their books. Henry will be there. You can come take pictures with Henry. What Are You Afraid Of podcast will be doing some recording during the day. I know we're going to do a few ghost tours and like some daytime investigating stuff. You can come for just the day portion as well. The day portion, I think, is going to be $10 if you're not sticking around for the after-hours stuff. So it's totally reasonable. It's totally awesome, and there's no reason why people will not be there.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. It's a real interesting place. It's very neat.
Just to be clear, because suddenly I'm hearing a la carte, is it $40? Everything's inclusive, or is it?
Yes, so it's
$45 day, then add.
No, so it's $45 all day. So if you want to get there at 10 a.m. and stay until 2 a.m., $45. If you just want to come for the 10 to 4, which is like when the fort is open regular time frame, that would be $10.
Okay.
And then they kick you out.
And if you want to get tickets ahead of time, you would call the fort to do that. And I'm sure that you would have to have the right date, which would be September 16th.
Yes. Yep. And the fort, if you want to call, you can either go to fortmifflin.us and look up their number, or it's 215-685-4167. And you can talk to them at the fort there. And just make sure you mention the Power X, September 16th, Horror at the Fort, the Philadelphia Ghost Fest.
You say it's Horror at the Fort.
Horror at the Fort, yes. It's not other words that sound like horror. I had that problem earlier.
So that'd be interesting. People can come out, hang out with us, go around, do some investigating, and see the fort itself and the history. Very interesting place. You have a gift shop there where people can buy things?
Yeah, they do have a gift shop. You can buy all your cheesy merchandise, plus some books and other fun stuff, too. There is no restaurant or food on site, so if you are sticking around for most of the day, please plan to bring some kind of picnic lunch with you, or, you can always go out and grab something and come back.
Well, there's a hotel just down the street. I believe they have a cafeteria also.
If you're rich, I guess. You ever eaten inside a restaurant and hotel?
Yes, I eaten that one because that was the one I stayed in when I went to the Fort Mifflin.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, but like I say, that was 2009, so I have no idea what prices and what the hotel is like now.
Sure, it's like 3 times that now.
So those hotels got fancy. They redid them all, made them all.
Oh, they did, huh?
We know Henry's coming back. Quick. Make it better. Make it more expensive.
Yes.
So we may be looking into getting a block of rooms at a discounted rate. Don't quote me on that yet, but if that happens, I will make sure to let everybody know.
Okay. And do you have, like, if you go to Fort Mifflin site, do they have, I would say, a list of hotels in the area?
I actually don't know if they do.
Okay.
but I can make them do that.
Well, that'd be interesting. People wants to come and
Go to
place stay. Yeah.
Go to kayak.com or Travelocity or something.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much anywhere near the Philadelphia airport, you'll be close enough to the fort. The fort literally backs right up to the airport.
Yeah, it does. And
How close is it to like Valley Forge?
We are about 40 minutes from Valley Forge.
Oh, okay.
And you're what, about an hour and something from Gettysburg?
Yeah, well, it depends who's driving. When I drive, we're an hour and 40 minutes. When Eric drives, we were 2 hours and a half.
Really?
Yeah, somebody went the wrong way and we ended up in Maryland.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, Henry's never had that issue with people trying to get to Gettysburg events. Who was I? Was that?
That was Cat.
Cat.
Yeah.
Cat.
Yeah.
She ended up like in Wisconsin or something.
No, we was going to meet one of her other friends there in Gettysburg, and she said, "Follow me," and she took all around the fort and still couldn't find where they were at. I mean, all around Gettysburg, couldn't find where they were at. Which made it funny. So we kid her about that all the time. It said, if you're going somewhere, do not follow Cat.
Or Eric B. from Dark Sun Rising.
Oh, Lord.
So Fort Mifflin on their site, if you go to the Plan Your Visit link on Fort Mifflin, there is a Trivago search engine there.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, how convenient.
There's a what
Search
now?
for hotels or Trivago.
It's a travel site.
Oh, okay. All right. Which will look up
Yep.
hotels for you.
Yep.
Okay.
Which is really nice.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
we didn't get to ask you, Rebecca, what got you into the paranormal.
And the fact you moved
And the
into a
fact-
haunted
yeah.
house.
Okay, hold on. I didn't move us into a haunted house. My parents moved us into a haunted house.
Eric moved us into it.
No. All right, so I got into the paranormal. I'll be honest, my brother passed away when I was 12. And my mother kind of went into this need to talk to every psychic in the world phase because she wanted to talk to my brother. And as a 12-year-old, watching my mother do this, I was very confused. I was very, concerned, I guess, because I wasn't entirely sure what she was doing or that she was going about it the right way. Now, before my brother passed away, I had always been a very avid reader of ghost books, ghost stories, things like that, but I never really looked into the paranormal as a whole. Now, like I said, when my mom started going on this kick, I started to do a little bit of digging. Now, the internet was still very young and very fresh and very new, so I had to go to the library and do digging that way. Found a lot of Hans Holzer's books, things like that, and looking into paranormal. When I was a teenager, I did the whole jumping the fence into the cemetery thing that you're not supposed to do. Don't ever do that. This is the disclaimer. Don't ever do that. But I did that.
Because their fences tend to be spiky.
Yes, and there's dead people to their side that will kick your butt if you land on them.
Oh.
So it kind of bloomed from that whole wanting to understand kind of what my mother was looking for. And then I also discovered about that time that I'm actually clairaudient, which means that I hear spirit. So we actually moved, right after my brother passed away, we moved from one house to another. And the new house that we moved to was actually new construction, but it was built on an old apple orchard, which had been populated from the 1600s. And a few spirits actually were kind of starting to gravitate towards my mother because at that point, I think she's also partially sensitive or something, because she was putting out vibes and, talking to all these psychics and just dabbling in that world and drawing them to her. So when I say we moved into a haunted house, that's the haunted house we moved into. It was brand new construction, came free with ghost. So I grew up through high school learning to tune them out. And then when I got to college, I realized this was a thing that other people did, and that's kind of where it all started.
Yeah. So your team, how did that come about?
Well, I went to college. I actually joined another team that already existed. And then about 6 weeks into my joining that team, the person who was leading it decided she didn't want to do it anymore. So she handed it over to me. mostly because I was the only one who could, keep track of things, and I'm very organized. So apparently that was the only criteria for being in charge of this group. But I took it from her, and we kind of worked through college. And then when I graduated, I was fully intending on handing it over to somebody else to continue. And honestly, nobody wanted it. So when I moved to Philly, I just, quote, brought the team with me, per se. So we've been going strong ever since here in Philadelphia.
Now, it's interesting. I grew up in a house that was also, our family was the first people to live in it, and it had a couple of odd things taking place in it. I have no idea whether or not it was it was northern New Jersey, so it could have been, for all I know, an Indian burial ground. But it's interesting. You indicated being clairaudient. You hear spirits more than you see them. You mean?
Yeah, I very rarely actually see anything. I
okay, so you and I are in that same boat too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, all of my experiences have been auditory. I've either heard things in the distance. I had a ghost whisper the word "hey" so much in my ear that I literally thought my then girlfriend had just snuck up on me. And I just turned around until I realized, oh, I'm by myself in the kitchen, and there's anywhere where it could have gone. It was that close. And
I've definitely been there.
Got a question from the chat room from Sherry, and she wants to know if any spirits has followed you home from the fort.
Very good question, and no, actually. The fort spirits tend to be very loyal to the fort. I've had them follow me home from other places, but not from the fort. They tend to be extremely loyal. They know that their quote-unquote job is to protect and defend Fort Mifflin, and I have never heard of anyone leaving the fort and bringing anything home with them.
Now, you're part of the TAPS family team, correct?
Yeah, Spirit of PA became the Southeastern Pennsylvania representatives a couple years ago.
So is your team still really active? I mean, have you gotten more calls for investigations, or has it sort of slid?
It has died out dramatically in the last, year and a half. We used to get, even before we joined TAP's team, like even before, we became affiliated with anybody, when it was just us and our little website on Google, we were getting probably 3 to 4 cases a month submitted. Now, we were actually investigating probably 1 or 2 a month because I am very stringent on weeding out kind of, not necessarily the crazy, but also the people that don't need an investigation, because I am very much of the belief that not everybody needs an investigation. I sometimes feel like investigating causes more problems than it can fix. So I'm very stringent on making sure that everything that I touch, I'm not going to make it worse. So I probably weed out about 40% of our cases just on the basis of they just need somebody to talk to. They need, some guidance or something. They don't need us to come barging in here with all our junk. Now, that was at the height of the ghost hunters, ghost adventures, ghost everything on TV was ghosts. Now, recently, as all these shows are starting to die off, unfortunately, that also means that having a ghost is no longer popular, which means that all of our cases are starting to die off, too. We are down to 1 or 2 every 3 months. It's bad. Now, there are some teams that are extremely busy, and I feel like I don't know their internal workings as well as, I probably should to comment on them, but I have a feeling that, number one, they either take everything that comes through the door, they don't do any kind of weeding out process, or they're paying to go to some of these sites, which is totally an acceptable thing. I just unfortunately don't believe in spending that kind of money every weekend to go somewhere.
Yeah, I don't either. We've been investigating a place not too far from where I live. It's a Preble County Historical Society, and we've gone there, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, and they just want us to keep coming back because we just kind of like talk to the ones that are there. And, we're finding more and more out about the place. It used to be an old home that's now the historical society, and the only thing that they did start with was would hear some like the front door open when there'd be nobody there, or some walking, on the floor, and they just wanted us to come out to find out who was there, and not try to get anything away, because nothing seemed to be malicious or anything. So we've got quite a bit of stuff from it. So pretty interesting.
And sometimes that's the best way to do it, is to go to one site and do it again and again and again, because like I mentioned, the fort kind of building up a database of voices and things, so we're able to track everything together. That's what people need to do, is realize you don't go to one site one time and then you're done. You need to go back multiple times. Can you repeat what happened to you? Can you dig around? Are there any foxes that make screaming noises? Like, these are things that people seem to forget, that's an important part of doing an investigation. It's not just going in there, getting your EVP and leaving. There's so much more to it.
Yep, sure is. Yeah. And I guess the first time that we were there, they had an upstairs that had 3 little rooms. And my son went up there because they told us that they had never heard anything or had anything happen upstairs. Well, he went upstairs and was up there maybe 15 minutes, and he come down and said, Dad, you guys got to go upstairs. Says, there's this little kid up there talking to me, and I hear him talking to me. So, we went up there, and they got some pretty good stuff. It was real soft, so you couldn't make a lot of it out. But one good one was when he come down to get us, he left his recorder up there, and you hear a little kid say, "Come back."
Aww.
So, but I mean, and it's just stuff like that. So, but it's real interesting, and they've come up with all kinds of history and found out more things, and it's led them to be able to dig deeper and find out more about who lived there, and more information about them, I should say, because they already know who lived there. But it's real interesting, and I like doing it. It's a nice place.
Well, that's the good part about doing a investigation at a public place as opposed to private residences, is that you can go back and not feel that you're intrusive, and everybody learns something from it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, real interesting. I'm looking forward to coming back to Fort Mifflin. Where are we going to be setting up at for I don't want to say meet and greet, because but it's where we're going to be setting up people to come talk to us.
So I'm not entirely sure yet. We're still kind of plotting the logistics of that. The probability is that we will, depending if it's a nice day, we'll set people out on the parade ground so you can come say hi. You'll do the live broadcast, and we're going to do that from the officers' quarters. Because that's where the Wi-Fi is the strongest.
Good.
Well, I thought we were going to put the hosts in cages like zoos.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
That's what we do after.
Don't put things in her mind like that.
I like this plan. I'm gonna go with this.
I'll make Barbara have to come out there.
We've been trying to bribe Barbara with every possible bribe.
I've tried. Yes.
Well, I have been bribed with pumpkin scones now, so it's
and blueberry. I heard.
How about orange scones?
Not into orange.
Oh, well.
Anyway.
Yes.
Rebecca, if everybody knows, is also responsible for the new ParaX Radio webpage.
Yay!
Yes. Very good job.
And it's not mine.
It's not finished, but it's looking really good. Very professional.
It works great.
We're adding stuff to it every day, so suggestions are always welcome.
There is now there's going to be a frequently asked questions center.
It is there. It's under the contact menu. Frequently asked questions. So if you're having problems with your player, check there first. Some of our more common errors are there, so it's always fun. But next to the contact, you might notice a brand new button.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. ParaX is now selling T-shirts, mugs, all kinds of fun stuff. So if you feel the need to support your favorite station and pass the word out to the world, click that button and grab
There's
some
even
good
baby
swag.
clothes.
And there is even baby and dog, I think. No, we didn't put the dog stuff up there because it was weird looking.
We need to.
I'm working on it. One thing at a time. But no, everything that every dime that gets put into that will get put back into keeping the station running. We do keep the station free for you guys as listeners and for the hosts. And so in order to do that, we need to get some swag going.
Yes.
No, but we will be giving out some T-shirts and buttons and pins and things. So stay tuned to Power X and listen to the commercials instead of going up for a potty break. Listen to the commercials and you might win.
And there's some really nice logos there, along with
there are
coffee mugs, buttons.
We used to do
now. Are you
going
to reestablish specific show pages? Because there used to be, like, I haven't found them. They seem to have moved. For instance, the chat room page itself is now a different URL. I had to update pages because it used to say live and now it says chat or something.
Well, yeah, you have to go to ParaXRadioNetwork.com, and then from there you can navigate to everything. The old site's completely gone. So.
Yeah.
And it has the show schedule, show archives, your shows. Well, even if you go down here to below, you can still go to the Paranormal View, which will take you to our page.
Yep, and all the shows, if you're looking for something new to do, you can actually, under the show link, things are sorted by category, so you can find shows by category. The show archive links are back up, so you can find those as well. And the entire site is mobile friendly, so if you're traveling and you want to show everybody the awesomeness that is ParaX.
My phone doesn't like the XAT chat.
It does not like, so the chat, and occasionally, depending on who your mobile server is, sometimes it doesn't play the stream, but the chat is not mobile friendly, unfortunately.
Well, I was able to listen to the show at least when I was in London years ago working on a movie by using the TuneIn app.
Yes.
That at least was able to access ParaX. So I was able to listen to the show live, and I don't remember if I was texting or emailing the show saying I'm listening. I'm in London, but
Yeah, TuneIn still works.
Yes, you can still access the shows via TuneIn, but the actual site itself is mobile friendly, and you should be able to stream if you're on Wi-Fi. You should be able to get the actual player to work on phones and tablets
that have flash. Yeah,
and we do have lots of new shows that has been added.
Absolutely, we are adding new shows all the time. Actually, this evening at midnight Eastern, a brand new show is debuting. It is a once-a-month horror drama, which is entirely fictional stories written and produced by Mark Slade and performed by professional actors. So think kind of War of the Worlds teleplay.
Where are they located? Not that I'm a professional actor or anything.
I believe that they film out, or they record out of Eastern Pennsylvania. I'm not entirely sure where.
So we are adding some new shows also from the West Coast. Or do we have any of those yet?
I don't know. West Coast.
Yes, I don't know of any West Coast ones, but we do have Mac Maloney's new show, which is on Sundays. That's Military X-Files. We have The Gathering, just became a weekly show. So those ladies who used to take over from The Calling once a month now have their own show. We have Dr. Kelly Schutz's Paranormal Encounters podcast. So she just started recently as well. So we're always adding new shows, always. And if you ever want to try and host on PowerX, all you have to do is go to our PowerX Facebook page and submit an application via the link there.
Very good. We got things working great then, don't we?
We're trying every
Rebecca,
day, step by
step. The Paranormal View, all one word, has its own account on Facebook, so you're welcome to come like our page. As well as the listeners can come like our page.
Yep.
Because not only do we promote obviously the show, but I'm the main admin on that. And if I find really weird articles, both paranormal, creepy, scary, or just sciency, I'll post the links to those articles.
Yeah, because Rebecca, when she's on Dark Sun or Blue Through Topaz, is known as the List Lady.
Do I know? I'm not the. No, I'm Princess Sparkle Pants.
Sparkle Knit Fluffy Pants.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So one of the ongoing jokes on Through Blue Topaz, for some reason, is I never actually introduced myself on air for the longest time. So the listeners in the chat room just started naming me. And they've gone through some pretty interesting ones, but I think the latest one was, Princess Fluffy McSparkle Pants or something like that. So, yep.
Boy.
You give the listeners an inch and they take so far.
Well, our time has just run right on through, and I want to thank Rebecca for taking the time to come and talk about Fort Mifflin and announcing that we are going to have our own horror thing at Fort Mifflin with
horror thing.
Para X. With Para X. Yeah. So
thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, you're very welcome. And, we again want to thank you. And if you want to stay on for a few minutes after we're off, that's fine. Why don't you give out your stuff where people can reach you and when your show is?
Sure. So I host the Shadows Radio on Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can go to theshadowsradio.com for all that information. I also host Through Blue Topaz Mondays at 11 p.m. Eastern. We don't have a website because that show is very under the radar, but it's a lot of fun. And then you can also find my paranormal team, Spirit of PA. It's SPIRT, only one I because we can't spell, of PA.com, and you can find us there.
All right.
And FortMifflin.us.
FortMifflin.us. There you go. Jeff?
Go to theparanormalview.com and you have all kinds of links. And like I say, we're on Facebook, The Paranormal View, all one word. And there you go.
All right. With that, this is Henry Foister.
Jeffrey Gould.
And we will see you next week at the same time. And we have Nick Redfern, Roswell UFO Conspiracy. So till then, good night, everybody. Have a great 4th of July. You've been listening to The Paranormal View on the Para X Radio Network. Join us again next week at the same time for more of The Paranormal View.